My mother was already on the phone with the venue when I walked into her living room. My wedding binder sat in my hands, a pen tucked behind my ear. "Yes," she said calmly, like she was discussing the weather. "We'll move my older daughter's booking to a later date. The 21st will now be for my younger daughter instead." "Yes." Immediately. I froze. 2 weeks before my wedding. 2 weeks. She didn't even look up as she ended the call. Just set the phone down and said, "This is what's best for the family, Tessa." My sister Mara sat on the couch with her legs tucked under her, wearing that smug smile she had perfected since childhood. The air left my lungs in one violent exhale. My heart punched my ribs so hard I felt dizzy. "You cancelled my wedding date?" I whispered, but it came out cracked and unsure. My mother folded her hands. "We're not cancelling, darling. We're reprioritizing. It's more fitting for her to be married first. You can reschedule. Hers can't." That was when it hit me. She didn't say couldn't. She said wouldn't. My wedding wasn't an unfortunate casualty. I was. My name is Tessa Monroe, and I was 29 years old when my family decided that my dreams were optional, but my sisters were sacred. This is how that betrayal turned into the most poetic justice I never planned, only executed. Before I continue, please type in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping family drama stories, because this one becomes something none of them ever expected. The silence in the room felt like glass about to shatter. I stood there gripping my wedding binder so tightly the edges bent under my fingers. My mother, Patricia, sat perfectly composed in her armchair, her pearl necklace catching the afternoon light streaming through the window. Mara stretched her legs out on the couch, examining her freshly painted nails like this was just another Tuesday. "Why?" I finally managed. My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Why does she get my wedding date?" Patricia sighed, the kind that suggested I was being difficult. "Tessa, you're 29. Mara is 25. Tradition dictates the younger daughter should marry first if she's ready. It maintains family order." I blinked. "Family order?" "Yes," she said firmly. "It's how things are done. Your grandmother married before her older sister. I did the same. Now Mara will too." Mara finally looked up, her smile widening. "Besides, Tess, you've always been so flexible. You'll figure something out. You always do." The words landed like stones in my stomach. Flexible. Like I was made of elastic, meant to bend and stretch for everyone else's convenience. I looked at my mother, searching for something, anything that resembled regret or hesitation. There was nothing. "What about my deposits?" I asked quietly. My hands were shaking now. "The photographer, the florist, the caterer. Everything is booked for the 21st. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "We'll work it out. Most vendors are understanding about family emergencies." "This isn't an emergency," I said, my voice rising slightly. "This is you choosing her over me." "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. The sharpness in her tone made me flinch. "This is about doing what's right for the family unit. Mara's fiancé has a demanding schedule. His family expects certain things. Your situation is more adaptable." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the binder across the room. Instead, I just stood there, watching my mother justify erasing my wedding like it was a pencil mark she could simply rub away. Mara scrolled through her phone, already texting someone, probably her friends, announcing her victory. "Does Kyle know?" I asked. Kyle was my fiancé. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. He was at work, completely unaware that our wedding had just been stolen. Patricia's expression softened slightly, but not with kindness. With pity. "You should tell him gently. He'll understand. He seems like a reasonable man." I left without another word. The drive home blurred past me, stop signs and traffic lights bleeding together. When I walked through the door of the apartment Kyle and I shared, I found him in the kitchen making dinner. He looked up, smiling, but his expression changed the moment he saw my face. "What happened?" he asked, immediately setting down the wooden spoon. I told him everything. The phone call, the casual cruelty, Mara's smug satisfaction, my mother's twisted logic about tradition and family order. With every sentence, Kyle's jaw tightened further. By the time I finished, his hands were clenched into fists on the counter. "She can't do that," he said. "We have contracts. We've paid deposits." "She already did it," I whispered. My phone started buzzing. I looked down. Text messages from vendors, confused emails about cancellation requests they'd received. My florist asked if everything was okay. The photographer wanted clarification. The venue coordinator sent a formal notice that our date had been reassigned per the account holder's request. My mother's name was on the venue contract. She'd insisted on putting the initial deposit down as her gift to us. I'd thought it was generous. Now I understood it was control. Kyle pulled me into his arms as I started to cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet, exhausted tears that felt like they'd been waiting years to fall. "We'll figure this out," he said softly. "We can elope. We can pick a different date. We can do whatever you want." But that was the problem. I didn't want to elope. I didn't want a different date. I wanted the wedding I'd planned, the one I'd spent months organizing, the one that was supposed to be mine. And I was furious that wanting that made me feel selfish. "I'm not letting her steal this from us," I said, pulling back and wiping my face. "I'm not." Kyle nodded. "Then we fight it. We call the venue, explain the situation. We get our date back." I wanted to believe it would be that simple. But I knew my mother. When Patricia Monroe made a decision, she made it final. And anyone who challenged her became the problem, not her actions. I could already hear her telling relatives, telling friends, that I was being unreasonable, that I was making things difficult during what should be a joyful family time. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Mara. The message from Mara was a photo. She'd taken a picture at the venue, standing in the garden where I was supposed to say my vows. The caption read, "Everything falls into place for the blessed." Kyle saw it over my shoulder. "That's disgusting." I didn't respond. I just stared at the image, at my sister's triumphant smile in the place I'd carefully chosen. I thought about the hours I'd spent walking that property, imagining the ceremony, the reception, the moments Kyle and I would share. Now all of it belonged to her. My phone rang. It was my Aunt Caroline. I answered cautiously. "Tessa, honey, I just heard," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Your mother explained the situation. I think it's wonderful that you're being so supportive of Mara. That's real sisterly love." My stomach dropped. "She told you I agreed to this?" "Well, yes. She said you understood about the family tradition and were happy to postpone." "Isn't that right?" I closed my eyes. Of course. Patricia had already started rewriting the narrative, making herself look generous and me look cooperative. If I contradicted her now, I'd be the liar, the difficult daughter, the jealous sister. "Something like that," I said quietly, and ended the call. That night, Kyle and I sat on the couch in silence. The TV played some show neither of us watched. My wedding binder sat on the coffee table between us, suddenly meaningless. Every page represented hours of planning, careful decisions, dreams I'd nurtured. Now it was just paper. "What do you want to do?" Kyle asked finally. "I don't know," I admitted. "If I fight this, I'm the villain. If I don't, I lose everything." He turned to face me. "You won't lose me." "I know," I said. "But I'll lose the wedding. The date. The venue. Everything I planned." "Then we make new plans," he said. "Better plans. Plans she can't touch." I wanted to believe him. But something inside me had shifted. The anger I felt wasn't the hot, explosive kind. It was cold, quiet, calculating. For the first time in my life, I didn't want to fix things with my mother. I didn't want to smooth things over or be the bigger person. I wanted her to understand what she'd done. I wanted her to feel it. I need to think, I said. Kyle kissed my forehead. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The next morning, my phone lit up with a text from an unexpected source. My grandmother, Helen, who lived 3 hours away in the same town where my mother grew up. I heard what happened. Come visit me. Soon. Helen was my father's mother, the one person in the family Patricia couldn't quite control. She was 82, sharp as glass, and had never particularly liked my mother. When my father died 6 years ago, their relationship became even more strained. But Helen had always been kind to me, in her quiet, no-nonsense way. I texted back immediately. I'll come this weekend. Kyle offered to come with me, but I went alone. The drive gave me time to think, to process everything that had happened in the past 48 hours. By the time I pulled into Helen's driveway, I felt steadier, though no less angry. She opened the door before I knocked, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Come in, child. You look exhausted. Her house smelled like lavender and old books. She made tea, the real kind, not from bags, and we sat in her sun-filled kitchen. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. Helen listened without interrupting, her face growing harder with each detail. When I finished, she set down her teacup with a decisive clink. Your mother has always chosen convenience over courage, she said flatly. This doesn't surprise me. What do you mean? I asked. She stood and walked to a cabinet in the hallway, returning with a small wooden box. Inside were old photographs, letters, documents I'd never seen. Your mother has a pattern, Helen said. She rewrites history to suit her narrative. She did it with your father, with me, with everyone who didn't fit her perfect image. She pulled out a letter, yellowed with age. This is from when she was planning her own wedding. She borrowed money from your father's family, promised to repay it, never did. When we asked about it, she claimed we'd given it as a gift. Gaslit us until we looked like the greedy ones. I stared at the letter, recognizing my mother's handwriting. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? Because she's very good at controlling narratives, Helen said. And because your father loved her despite her flaws. He asked us to let things go. We did for his sake. But he's gone now, and I won't watch her do this to you. Helen showed me more documents, more patterns. Favoring Mara since childhood, explaining it away as Mara being more sensitive, needing more attention. Rewriting my accomplishments as strokes of luck while praising Mara's mediocrity as brilliance. The evidence was all there, laid out in birthday cards with different amounts of money, in letters that mentioned Mara's achievements but barely acknowledged mine. What should I do? I asked quietly. Helen folded her hands. You could fight for that wedding date. Make a scene. But Patricia would turn it against you. She'd make you look unstable, jealous. The whole family would side with her because it's easier than admitting she's cruel. So I just let her win? No, Helen said firmly. You let her think she won. Then you build something she can't touch. I didn't understand at first. Helen leaned forward, her eyes bright. Your mother cares desperately about appearances. About what people think. About her reputation in this community. She's built a careful image over decades. What do you think happens when that image cracks? Something clicked in my mind. You think she'll destroy herself? I think she's already started, Helen said. You just need to step back and let her. I drove home with Helen's words echoing in my head. Kyle was waiting when I got back, anxious for news. I told him about the documents, the patterns, Helen's advice. He listened carefully, then said, So what's the plan? We postpone, I said. Indefinitely. We tell everyone it's because of work commitments, personal timing, whatever sounds reasonable. We don't make a scene. We don't fight. And then we wait. I said. We build our lives. We let her think she got away with it. Kyle studied my face. You're not giving up. You're playing a longer game. I'm protecting myself, I corrected. From her. From all of them. He pulled me close. Whatever you need. I'm with you. That night, I drafted an email to our vendors. Professional, apologetic, explaining that due to unforeseen circumstances, we needed to postpone our wedding indefinitely. Most were understanding. Some were sympathetic. None of them knew the real reason, and I didn't explain. My mother called the next day, her voice bright. I heard you postponed. Very mature decision, sweetheart. This gives you time to plan something even better. I kept my voice neutral. Yes, something better. The next few weeks blurred together. I threw myself into work, arriving early and staying late. My boss, a woman named Veronica, noticed. You've been different lately, she said one afternoon. More focused. What changed? I considered lying, then decided on a version of the truth. Family situation. Using work as an outlet. She nodded knowingly. I've been there. Channel it. Make it fuel. So I did. I took on projects others avoided, worked weekends, pushed myself harder than I ever had. My performance reviews went from solid to exceptional. Colleagues started coming to me for advice. Veronica began including me in higher-level meetings. At home, Kyle and I settled into a new rhythm. We didn't talk about the wedding much. It felt like a wound that needed time to close. But we were solid, stronger even, bound by what we'd survived together. My mother called weekly, always with updates about Maura's wedding planning. The dress, the flowers, the guest list. I listened with detached politeness, offering neutral responses. She seemed pleased with my compliance, with how well I was handling everything. You've really grown up, she said once. I'm proud of how mature you're being. I bit my tongue and said thank you. 3 months after my stolen wedding date, I received an unexpected email. A national conference in my field was looking for speakers. Veronica had submitted my name along with samples of my recent work. They wanted me to present on a panel. This is huge, Kyle said when I told him. Do you know how many people apply for this? I didn't. But I prepared like my life depended on it. I crafted my presentation carefully, practiced until every word felt natural, anticipated questions. The night before I flew out, Kyle held me tight. You're going to be amazing. The conference was in Seattle, 3 days of networking and presentations. My panel was on the second day. I walked onto that stage terrified but determined. When I spoke, something shifted. I found my voice, my confidence. I answered questions with authority I didn't know I had. When I finished, the applause felt genuine, warm. Afterward, people approached me, asked for my contact information, told me my insights were valuable. One woman handed me her card. We have an opening in our leadership team. Would you be interested in talking? I looked at the card. A company I'd admired for years. A position 2 levels above what I currently held. Yes, I said. I would. The interview process took 6 weeks. 3 rounds, presentations, reference checks. Kyle supported me through every stage, never once suggesting I might be moving too fast or too far. When the offer came through, the salary was 40% higher than what I currently made. The title was Director of Strategy. The location was Boston. It's across the country, I said, staring at the offer letter. Kyle read over my shoulder. It's also everything you deserve. What about us? He turned me to face him. I can work remotely. I can find something new. Tessa, this is your moment. Take it. I called Veronica to give my notice. She wasn't surprised. I knew you'd outgrow us eventually. Go make them proud. I accepted the offer the next day. We had 8 weeks to pack up our entire lives and move. I told my mother during our weekly call, keeping my tone casual. I got a new job. We're moving to Boston. Silence. Then, Boston? That's so far. It's a good opportunity, I said. But what about family? What about being here for Maura's wedding? I'll fly back for that, I lied. I had no intention of attending. But I didn't tell her that yet. Well, she said, sounding uncertain for the first time. Congratulations, I suppose. After we hung up, I felt lighter than I had in months. A week before we moved, a package arrived from Helen. Inside was a thick envelope filled with more documents, letters I hadn't seen during my visit. A note on top read, "For when you need proof of who she really is." I spread the letters across our dining table. Some were correspondence between Patricia and various family members. Others were old emails Helen had printed. The pattern was stark. My mother had spent years carefully curating her image, positioning herself as the martyred single parent after my father died, the dedicated mother who sacrificed everything for her daughters. But the letters told a different story. Arguments with relatives over money. Manipulation of narratives to make herself look better. And most damning, an email chain where she explicitly discussed favoring Maura because Tessa doesn't need as much attention. She's self-sufficient. Kyle read over my shoulder. She literally admits it. She does, I said. But if I use this now, I look petty. Like I'm trying to ruin Maura's wedding. So when do you use it? I carefully placed the documents back in the envelope. When the time is right. Our move to Boston was smooth. The new apartment was beautiful, filled with light. My new job was challenging in the best way. Kyle found remote work that paid well. We built a life 3,000 miles from my mother's influence. And for the first time in years, I could breathe. Maura's wedding was 4 months away. My mother called more frequently as it approached, always with requests disguised as questions. You'll be here early to help set up, won't you? You'll give a speech at the reception, right? You'll contribute to the gift for Maura and her fiancé, won't you? I deflected each request with vague promises. Meanwhile, life in Boston was flourishing. I was excelling at work, making real friends, building something that was entirely mine. Kyle and I started looking at houses, talking about our own future beyond the wedding that had been stolen. Then, 6 weeks before Maura's wedding, my mother's carefully constructed image started cracking. It began small. A missed payment to a vendor. A bounced check for deposits. My Aunt Caroline called me, voice tight. Did you know your mother is having financial trouble? No, I said honestly. She overextended herself for Maura's wedding. Promised her everything. The dress alone cost more than most people's entire budget. Now vendors are calling me asking if I can help cover costs. I felt a strange calm settle over me. That sounds difficult. Tessa, your family. Surely you can help. I live across the country now, I said. My finances are stretched with the move. I can't help. There was a pause. That's very cold of you. Is it? I asked. Or is it just realistic? She hung up without saying goodbye. More cracks appeared. Maura called me directly, something she rarely did. Mom said you'd help pay for some wedding expenses. As a gift. She said that. Yeah. She said you were doing well in your new job and wanted to contribute. I laughed, a sharp sound. Maura, I'm not giving you money for a wedding that was supposed to be mine. Silence. Then defensively. That's so petty. It was a year ago. Get over it. I am over it, I said calmly. Which is why I'm not participating. You're not even coming? She asked, voice rising. I haven't decided yet, I lied. I'd decided months ago. She hung up. Within an hour, my mother called, furious. How dare you refuse to help your sister? After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? I asked. The question seemed to stun her. I raised you. I provided for you. I gave you a home. You cancelled my wedding, I said quietly. 2 weeks before the date. You gave my venue to Mara. You told everyone I agreed when I didn't. You made me the villain for being hurt. So no, Mother. I won't be helping. I won't be contributing. And I'm not sure I'll be attending. Tessa Monroe, if you don't come to this wedding. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not with fear. With something like liberation. Helen called that evening. I heard about the fireworks. News travels fast. Your mother is panicking, she said. Her perfect wedding is falling apart financially, and now you're refusing to play along. The family is talking. Let them talk, I said. Good, Helen said. Because I want to give you something. A gift. Helen, you don't have to. Hush. When your father died, he left a small trust for you. Your mother was the executor until you turned 30. You're almost there. I'm transferring it to you now instead. $25,000. I sat down hard. I had no idea that existed. Your mother never told you. She was supposed to. But she kept it quiet, probably planning to use it for something else. Consider it your father's blessing for whatever you need next. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet apartment, thinking, $25,000. Enough to do something significant. Enough to reclaim what had been taken. Carl found me there an hour later. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said slowly, that it's time to plan a wedding. The next morning, I called the venue where my original wedding was supposed to happen. This is Tessa Monroe. I'm calling about availability for next year. Of course, Ms. Monroe. What date were you considering? March 21st, I said. 1 year exactly from the date that was stolen. There was typing. Then, that date is available. Would you like to book it? Yes. And I'll be paying in full up front. Kyle watched as I filled out the forms, transferred the deposit, secured everything in my name only. When I hung up, he said, You're booking the exact date. I am. Your sister will already be married by then. I know, I said. That's the point. Over the next few weeks, I quietly contacted vendors. The photographer who'd been disappointed when I cancelled. The florist who'd sent me a sympathy card. The caterer who'd told me to call if I ever rescheduled. All of them remembered me. All of them had availability. All of them were delighted to work with me again. I paid deposits, signed contracts, made everything official. And I didn't tell my mother a single thing. Maura's wedding was in 3 weeks when Patricia tried one more time. She showed up at Helen's house, knowing I'd be visiting for the weekend. I came downstairs to find her in the living room, looking smaller than I remembered. We need to talk, she said. I don't think we do. Tessa, please. I'm asking you to be there for your sister. To be part of this family. I sat down across from her. You mean the family that erased me when it was convenient? That family. Her face hardened. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being honest. For once. She stood, straightening her jacket. If you don't come to this wedding, you're making a choice. You're choosing to be estranged from this family. You made that choice for me a year ago, I said. I'm just accepting it now. She left without another word. Helen appeared from the kitchen where she'd been listening. Well done. It doesn't feel like a victory, I admitted. Not yet, she said. But it will. Maura's wedding happened without me. I saw photos on social media, saw the venue I'd chosen, saw my sister in white surrounded by family who'd never once asked how I was doing. Kyle and I spent that day hiking in the mountains outside Boston, breathing clean air, being present in our own lives. My mother didn't call afterward. Neither did Maura. The silence was absolute. 2 months later, I mailed the invitations. Elegant, cream-colored cardstock with embossed lettering. The venue was listed. The date, March 21st. The same venue, the same date, 1 year later. But there were two names conspicuously absent from the guest list. Patricia Monroe and Maura Monroe were not invited. I hand-delivered Helen's invitation personally. She opened it, read it, and smiled wider than I'd ever seen. "This is perfect." "Is it too much?" I asked. "No," she said firmly. "It's exactly enough." The invitations went out on a Tuesday. By Thursday, my phone was exploding. Relatives calling, texting, demanding explanations. Why wasn't Patricia invited? Why wasn't Maura? What kind of daughter excludes her own mother from her wedding? I didn't respond to any of them. Kyle and I had agreed on a simple response for anyone who asked directly. "We're keeping it intimate. Immediate circle only." My mother's call came Friday night. "You sent out invitations." "I did." "I wasn't invited." "No." Silence. "Then, you can't do this. I'm your mother." "You cancelled my wedding," I said. "You gave it to Maura. You made me feel like I didn't matter. So now I'm having my wedding, on my terms, with people who actually care about me. You're not one of them. The entire family will know," she hissed. "Everyone will ask why I'm not there." "I know," I said. "And you'll have to explain that. Good luck." I hung up. The fallout was spectacular. Patricia tried to explain to relatives, to friends, to her church community why she wasn't invited to her own daughter's wedding. But every explanation made her look worse. She tried saying we'd had a falling out, but people wanted details. She tried suggesting I was being immature, but I'd always been the responsible one. People remembered. Aunt Caroline called me. "I'm coming to your wedding." "You are?" "Yes." Because I called Helen. And she told me the truth. About everything. The cancelled date. The stolen venue. All of it. I'm ashamed I didn't see it sooner. More relatives called with similar messages. People who'd sided with Patricia initially now reconsidered. The narrative she'd carefully constructed started crumbling. At her women's group, someone asked directly why she wasn't invited. Patricia gave a vague answer about respecting my choices. The woman pressed harder. But what choices led to this? Patricia couldn't answer without admitting what she'd done. So she said nothing. And in that silence, people filled in their own conclusions. None of them were flattering. Her social calendar emptied. Church committees stopped calling. Friends became distant. The image she'd built over decades collapsed, and I hadn't done anything except exclude her from an event. Her own actions had done the rest. Maura tried to organize a family intervention. She called me desperate. "You're destroying Mom. The whole community is talking. She's been uninvited from committee boards. People are avoiding her at church. You have to fix this." "I don't have to do anything," I said. "This is cruel," she insisted. "Over a wedding date from a year ago. Let it go." "I did let it go," I said. "I let go of the fantasy that my mother loved me equally. That my family valued me. That I mattered to any of you. This wedding is about me and Kyle. Not about her. Not about you. But she's your mother. And she chose you over me," I said. "Every single time. So now I'm choosing myself." Maura hung up. Later, I heard through relatives that she'd confronted Patricia, asking why she'd really cancelled my wedding. Patricia apparently tried to justify it with that same excuse about tradition and family order. But under pressure, the real reason emerged. She'd thought I would quietly accept it. That I would always be the accommodating one. That I didn't need the spotlight the way Maura did. Maura was reportedly horrified. The golden child learning she'd been favored not out of love, but out of perceived neediness. Their relationship grew strained. Patricia tried to backtrack, but the damage was done. 3 months before my wedding, Patricia tried one last desperate move. She showed up at my apartment in Boston unannounced. Kyle answered the door, then looked back at me. I nodded. She walked in looking diminished. Her carefully styled hair seemed grayer. Her always perfect posture sagged slightly. "Tessa," she began. "We need to talk." "We really don't." "Please," she said, and the words sounded foreign in her mouth. "I'm asking for forgiveness." I studied her carefully. "Are you sorry for what you did? Or sorry that it had consequences?" She hesitated too long. That told me everything. "You came here expecting me to fold," I said quietly. "Like I always have. You thought if you showed up and said the right words, I'd invite you to the wedding and your reputation would be saved." "That's not. But I'm not angry anymore," I said. "I'm not hurt. I'm just done. Done explaining. Done hoping you'll change. Done participating in a family that never saw me." She reached out as if to touch my arm. I stepped back. "I don't hate you," I said. "But I don't need you either. I've built a life without you. I'm marrying the man I love, surrounded by people who actually care. And you're not part of that. Not because I'm punishing you. Because you don't belong there." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. "You should go," Kyle said gently but firmly. She looked at me one last time, searching for something. Whatever she hoped to find wasn't there anymore. She left without another word. I closed the door and stood there, feeling nothing except relief. The weeks before the wedding moved in a blur of final preparations. Dress fittings, tastings, rehearsals. Helen came early to help, her presence a comfort. Kyle's family embraced me completely, his mother often saying, "We're so lucky you're joining us." The day before the wedding, I stood in our apartment surrounded by the beautiful chaos of preparation. Flowers in vases, garment bags hanging, boxes of decorations waiting. Kyle wrapped his arms around me from behind. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Free," I said. And I meant it. No part of me wished my mother was there. No part of me felt guilty or conflicted. I'd grieved that relationship over the past year, worked through the anger and hurt, and come out the other side not bitter but liberated. The people attending tomorrow were people who'd chosen me, supported me, valued me. That was enough. That night, Helen took me to dinner, just the two of us. Over dessert, she took my hand. "Your father would be so proud of you. Not just for the wedding, but for knowing your worth." "I wish he was here," I admitted. "He is," she said. "In the trust he left. In the values he taught you. In the strength you showed when it mattered most." We sat quietly for a moment. Then she added, "You know, the best revenge is living well. You didn't destroy your mother. She destroyed herself. You just refused to save her from her own choices." "Is that what this was?" I asked. "Revenge." She smiled. "No. This was you choosing yourself. That's not revenge. That's survival." The wedding day dawned clear and bright. The venue looked exactly as I'd imagined it a year ago when I'd first fallen in love with it. White flowers everywhere, soft lighting, the garden in full bloom. But this time everything felt right. No shadow hanging over it. No stolen joy. I walked down the aisle on Helen's arm, my chosen family surrounding us. Kyle's smile when he saw me was everything. The ceremony was simple, heartfelt, perfect. When we kissed, the cheers felt genuine, untainted by obligation or drama. At the reception, I looked around at the faces. Aunt Caroline and other relatives who'd reconsidered their loyalties. Kyle's warm, loving family. Colleagues from Boston who'd become real friends. And Helen, who raised her glass when she caught my eye. I raised mine back. There was no bitterness in my heart. No vengeance. Just peace. Patricia had given me a gift without meaning to. She'd forced me to stand on my own, to find my value outside her approval, to build a life I chose deliberately. My family hadn't destroyed themselves because of anything I did. They destroyed themselves because they couldn't hide who they really were once I stopped covering for them. As Kyle and I danced our first dance, I realized I wasn't the same person who'd stood in Patricia's living room a year ago, binder in hand, heartbreaking. I was stronger, clearer, free. The wedding she'd stolen had led me here, to this moment, to this life. And this life was better than anything she could have given me permission to have. I'd learned what I was worth. And I'd never forget it again.